Hey everybody, welcome to Fuck White Supremacy, Let's Get Free. My name is Patrisse Cullors, and I am here with one of my favorite human beings, Erin Christovale of the Hammer Museum. Hey Erin!
Hey, Patrisse. It's so good to be here with you. I think as someone who's known you for many years and has seen you in all the different roles that you play, in all the work that you do in support of us and Black folks all over the world, as an activist, as an artist, and so many other things. And I'm so excited to talk about this project with you because it is a project that I feel like just keeps giving, and something that really I think is, foregrounds just the power of dance and music and
Yes.
how that brings people together under any circumstances. And I think what just really reinforces that arts and creativity as a force of solidarity, allyship, and union building. And so it's wonderful. And so before we even get into the project, I really just want to talk about your art practice.
Yeah.
I think obviously many people know you as an incredible activist, but I think folks are in a lot of ways just starting to understand how integral and also how entwined your art practice is with your activist efforts. So can you kind of give us a little brief history of what inspired you to be an artist and when, how you got here?
Absolutely. And, Erin, you've seen that journey of mine for so many years now. I think one of the events that you curated, I had an art piece in that really looked at the issues of torture of people inside LA County jails and its impact it had on my family and the personal impact it had on my family. So, I mean, for folks who don't know, I'm an artist. And actually, I always tell people I was an artist before I was even politicized. So I grew up dancing. I grew up being trained in ballet and jazz and hip hop, tap, and spent most of my time going to dance class after school. And I actually really evolved out of sort of the traditional dance world because I felt like there wasn't a place for Black women's bodies, like, late 90s, early 2000s. The main place for Black women whose bodies looked like mine were in hip hop videos. And I loved hip hop videos, but I wanted to do other things. And so I really started to delve into the world of performance art. And one of the first people that I felt really inspired by in the performance art world was Narcissister. And her work, Narcissister was a trained Ailey dancer. She went from Ailey to performance art. And I really loved her trajectory. It felt very similar. And this, very traditional dance world that I just didn't feel like the whole of me could exist. And so much of my work is about resilience, the resilience of Black people, the healing of Black people, and the impact a system of white supremacy and anti-Black racism has on our physical bodies, on how we show up in the world. And, I feel like my practice is often a place for me to process what I've experienced, the trauma I've experienced, both to process and to heal from it. And so I'm often in my practice in the middle of a process when I'm presenting a work. It's because I am trying to understand myself, how I'm in relationship to the thing that I am interested, concerned, infuriated, excited by. So that's really how my practice lives. It's iterative.
Mm-hmm. And I think, another aspect of your practice that doesn't get talked about enough is the aspect or the notion of ritual. And I often find that your artistic practice is a space where your spirituality and your activism can sort of come together and work together. And, and just thinking of some of your recent performative work, can you speak a little bit about how ritual shows up into your work and how something like an electric slide could be seen as a sort of ritualistic experience?
Absolutely. It's funny because I grew up Jehovah's Witness. So a very, in some ways, anti-ritual, although there's tons of rituals in the Kingdom Hall and with Jehovah's Witnesses. But I really started to understand the world of ritual through my politicization. I felt like there was a missing conversation oftentimes in the political world around healing and the need for healing. And that I recognized, was when I was a young person growing up and being asked to tell my story, to elected officials who didn't care about me or didn't want to listen to me. I felt like a part of me was taken away every time I had to divulge the pain I'd gone through to these people who didn't really want to hear about it. And so ritual practice became a really important practice in my own reset and how I reset and how I ground. And I really see ritual as like a set of, things that I do on a daily basis to ground myself, to give myself more context around how I am a human being and how we are human beings. I'm very interested in the process of being human. I'm very interested in that process because I think being a Black person, that our humanity is so often taken from us or stripped from us, or we're told we're not worthy of humanness. So I'm very interested in that engagement. And I think, dance and movement, really just like general movement, reminds us of our bodies, reminds us what we exist as, the matter that we are, and brings us back to who we are. But then when we add that with being in collective, so the rituals that I really like to do through my work is bringing people together. So dancing together, that's probably one of the biggest things I miss now as we've been in quarantine and we can't gather, is like being in hundreds of people, thousands of people dancing together and processing. The last thing I did before the quarantine, before COVID, was the Crenshaw Dairy Mart, our art gallery and studio, opening to the public, and there was 300 people there, and we had a full-on dance party.
Yeah, of course.
And so the ritual of not just the individual practice, but the collective practice is a practice that I'm constantly engaging in. It's, my activism for me is an extension of my art practice. Gathering by the thousands at a public protest is a ritual. The ritual that is about reminding not just the people that we're yelling at or asking for attention from, but also us, the people that we are marching with, that we are human beings. There's something really special about that. So, my practice is about ritual, but it's also about collectivizing that ritual.
Absolutely. And, I think not only the collective, but in this particular piece, taking up space, as an idea, especially as it pertains to, folks of color taking up space in a predominantly white art world.
That's right.
And I think what was so amazing about the first time that I witnessed and participated in this piece was it was during Freeze Week, in LA. It was at Freeze, which, obviously is a major art fair. And there was something so liberating about being able to bring joy in the space, dance in the space, moving our bodies outside of the normal, just back and forth from booth to booth.
Yeah.
And, again, just reinforcing the fact of taking up space as bodies of color in these predominantly white, art worlds, markets, etc. Mm-hmm. And so, I would love to just know some of your process around how you came to realize this piece, and particularly how you landed on the electric slide as the mode of dance that you wanted to drive this piece.
Yes. In 2019, Donald Trump had been holding undocumented children hostage at the US-Mexico border inside of human cages. And those visuals came out, and I'm just like getting the chills thinking about it, where we saw all these babies suffering because of this, white supremacist, because of this fascist. And I was angry. I felt really helpless. I felt really ashamed. I felt very disturbed. And oftentimes when we feel that as human beings, the way we're taught in this society, especially in a Western context, is to isolate, is to ignore, is to not confront. And so I was really challenging myself not to ignore, not to isolate, and to not disappear the news that I had seen. And so I had some workup at LTD Gallery, and asked the gallerist at the time if she would let me, host a dance party in her parking lot. She was like, absolutely. And I was like, I don't want to do just any dance party. Like, the electric slide is literally, as you know, Erin, like the dance that Black people do everywhere. We do it at, in the middle of like a family barbecue. Okay, like the song comes on and one person gets up and then everybody gets up. We do it at funerals and repasses to honor and celebrate. We've done it, and we do it in so many places. It's the central dance that really brings us together in the time of grief, joy, relationship, and we do it at weddings. And so I wanted to bring the electric slide to the art world, to our communities, to our families. And I wanted us to collectively respond to white supremacy with this act of resistance, this dance, because I believe even still, that when we are joyful, when we are celebratory, that is an act of resistance. And so that's why I decided that. That's like sort of the origin story. And I didn't realize that so many people would show up. I think we, did it in like 72 hours. Like, it wasn't even that long. And like 200 people showed up to the parking lot. And it's a durational piece. So it's 2 hours. And I was like, I'm gonna be dancing for 2 hours. I don't know about y'all, but join me on the dance floor. And I think half of the folks danced for 2 hours. And I remember the sun setting, and ending our dance party, our electric slide dance party to Nipsey Hussle's and YG's Fuck Donald Trump. That was just like such a great and necessary experience. And then we stopped, and we clapped and we hugged each other, and felt like a reset moment, and also like all right, let's get back to the work of challenging this white supremacist in office.
That's incredible. I mean, and I think beyond that, right? Like this dance takes on so many different subtexts and undertones also in light of the pandemic,
Right.
The fact that we have been, the majority of us have been in these enclosed spaces for over a year, that, Black and brown folks, specifically in LA, but all over the nation, have been disproportionately affected by this pandemic, by this virus. And I think something as simple as dancing and moving your body when we all have been so sedentary for so long is just incredibly liberating. So I wanted to just ask you one final question, which is, the title of this work is like a piece in itself, right? It's everything you need to know. It's incredible. And I just wanted to ask you about, naming white supremacy so freely and so radically in your title, and what that meant for you as you were sort of forming a title around this work.
Yes, I like the F word a lot. So it's one of my favorite words. It helps just really encapsulate most of what I'm feeling most of the time.
Mhm.
Um, but also, you know, for the last 8 years of Black Lives Matter in particular, we've been naming white supremacy. It wasn't until Donald Trump was elected where the media started using it freely. And it felt really necessary to challenge this thing that is both, the institutions that we live in, the government that we live under, but also these individuals who were embodying white supremacy. It's also a call to action for us, for all of us who embody white supremacist ways. Like, fuck that, fuck white supremacy. Like, our freedom depends on being like, no more white supremacy. And so the let's get free, that's like that's an ode to dead prez, for all you hip hop heads. Like,
Yes.
it's used so much, inside of Black vernacular and Black movement. Like, let's get free. What does freedom look like? And there's nothing like dancing together to embody how freedom is possible, the potential of freedom. So that I never thought, that the title would be an issue. I definitely, in the times that I've presented the work, and people be like, oh, okay, well, that's direct. There's nothing really subtle about my practice. So I just thought I'd go for the gusto with the title.
Absolutely. And we're so happy because, as you mentioned, it's like so much has happened over the past 4 years with this administration, but so much has happened in the past 400 years. And I think being direct and naming white supremacy as a force that has continued to oppress not only Black folks, but so many marginalized folks throughout the years will only get us closer to freedom.
That's
And
right.
so will the electric slide. And we're so thankful for you, Patrisse. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And let's get into it.